a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding
reality.
Mark, Olly, Jaya Simrit Kaur, welcome back for part 2 of Psychic Archeology. Very excited about this. There is huge feedback on this. People are excited. You're igniting that beautiful, wonderful, whimsical part in us that say there is magic all around us. And you guys are doing something really, really cool. So part 1 and how to find these amazing souls will be located down below, guys. Jaya's Instagram and her booking, Mark's Facebook and his books. And part 1 as well, located down there, as well as our Patreon. So make sure that you check that out. We've got a couple of things hosted there that don't go out anywhere else, and they're absolutely free. So that's linked down below. If you'd like to value exchange with us, we are grateful for it. You get all kinds of cool shit, and it's located down there. So again, I want to welcome everyone and just let the audio-only audience know that we have a dope-ass slide presentation here. Jaya has been documenting this thing like crazy. And it's awesome. Like what would you say, Jaya? Triple the pictures this time?
Yeah. There's like 48 just in the slideshow that I narrowed it down to. I think last time we had 19. So
they've been on a massively incredible quest. And since they've left each other, they've both hit additional sites. And so the quest continues. And it's just awesome and beautiful. And thank you all for sharing this with us. So again, all the ways to find them and part 1 located down below. I'm going to kind of get out of the way and let's just get into this thing, y'all.
Thank you so much, Brandon. And yeah, it has been definitely a continuation. It feels like part 1 was like so small compared to like where we've been together and separately since then. I guess we can just start at the northern part of where we went and work our way down. So the first thing I'd love to just say, and Mark, please chime in, is that this journey was largely on the St. Michael ley line that goes all the way through England, and then on and off the Mary line, which goes around it like this. And I do have an image of that, but I don't know if you want to wait to share screen till later.
We can share any old time. Audio only audience is well aware that they are in for some dope visuals, and they've already clicked the video link down there. It's free. It's located right. Like, why wouldn't they come over here and check this badass react? Available a variety of places.
Well, while I go to share, Mark, if you want to say anything about the line.
I mean, yeah, we kind of in part 1 we kind of started off with the Welsh, the absolutely northern bit. And then we set off on a kind of a 700-mile round trip. So the bit that's not shown on the graphic is kind of the bit from the southern bit going back up north. So we drove all the way down. First site you've got to go to, anybody that does this, start at Avebury. You've got to start at Avebury. I mean, it just makes, as I very often say, it makes Stonehenge look like a cowshed. You know, it's enormous. Avebury's massive. It's massive stones, massive bank and ditch. The best part of it is, though, that somewhere in the distant past, they decided they were going to build a village that went right into the middle of it. So the very first thing we did when we landed was we kind of settled into the pub for some food because it was such an enormously long trip. And as soon as you get out the car, you're in it. There's no escape. You're right in the middle of it. You're in a pub in the middle of a 5,000-year-old stone circle, which doesn't happen every day. So you sat there, you know, sort of eating your dinner. You look out the window, there's stones, just standing stones everywhere. So I've got to say, it's got to be one of my it's in the top 10 favourite pubs in Britain. You know, there's just nothing to compare to that. So really, it had to be the starting point. And lo and behold, it's on that line. You know, that's the first contact point to join that line. So really, wherever you go, left or right, on the line, the best place really to come in on it is probably Avebury. That's where I'd start.
And where's Avebury on this map?
You'll see that I think Wells gets a mention on there. There's like on the map, there's like a huge sort of abbey church shown. It's the biggest icon, I think, on the line. It's this big sort of very bold icon. Yeah, right in the middle.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, so where that icon is, that's approximately where you are with Avebury.
I see.
It's there. Let's just have a look where we're going in. Aylesbury's on there. Well, Aylesbury's on there, but Avebury is just slightly to one side of that.
This is awesome.
So that's really where you're touching base with the start of this whole phase.
The thing that's really quite interesting about the line is you see like there's a straight line all the way through. That is the Michael line. And then there's this sort of jagged line that's sort of like hugging, weaving in and out. And it's basically like a double helix with the Mary line. So you've got the masculine line straight through, also called the Sword of Michael, which goes through 7 countries total. And then you've got the Mary line, which is the feminine line, which comes around it. And you can definitely feel the energy is different when you hit different lines. And there are a few places where they actually converge. Which is very, very cool, some of which we went to. But yeah, so to Avebury is the largest megalithic stone circle in the world. It's 28 acres, and it's really hard to photograph because it's, it's several circles together. And as Mark said, it's in the middle. So we started by going in this sitting in this pub and having lunch, and you can feel the energy if you have any kind of attunement or any kind of sensitivity. So we're just like sitting in this pub having lunch, and it's like wah, 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 the energy coming from all 28 acres all around us. And it's interesting as well because there's sheep just like crazy.
It looks so cool.
Here's Mark.
Hell yeah, handsome devil.
That's quite a tiny stone, actually. That's quite small. Some of them would be huge. They absolutely dwarf me. So yeah, that's a sort of average size stone.
Is there anything to the underground here? Because I look at something like this and I think of the Easter Island skulls, Easter Island statues in Moai, and how they go like 30 stories underground or something.
Well, they're about 2/3 above ground and about 1/3 below ground, because if they're not like that, they tend to topple over. Right. And it has to be said with Avebury, actually, that in the sort of 16th and 17th century, they thought these things were like demon possessed. So a lot of them, they piled timber up against them, heated them up, and then smashed them using hammers and water. So the irony of that is that very often you can pick up big lumps of burnt stone all over the place, and it's pieces of these. Wow. The stones that are missing have actually been destroyed. But the ones that are there are pretty impressive.
They're amazing.
And look at this tree. I mean, everything here was just so alive. So here you can kind of like gauge the circle.
That perfect bird that flew by the way, as you panned across, it looks like it looks like shot by a director. It's amazing.
Well, because of the nature of the stone, back in prehistory, the whole platform and all these standing stones would have been white. The banks that go round it would have been white, but the ditch would have been filled with water. So if you'd have entered this at night with a star field above, the star field would have been reflected into the ditch, and it would make the disc in the middle look like it was flying in space. You'd have an infinite, we've lost the sound and the lighting part of this, but it would have been incredible. Absolutely incredible.
We are going to talk about reflection in the afterthought here. I can already tell you. I was talking to Crow 777 about this, and we're going to go deep into it, guys. That's fascinating. You brought it up, Mark. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So you can really see, with each one of these stones, they're very, very alive. This is like 2850 BC is when they kind of like put the marker. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, on that.
No. You bang on.
But it's. If you look at them, they're very alive. They have a lot of personality, and it's not even dormant in the least. I mean, you don't even have to like knock on the door and be like, hey, you want, I mean, they're just very like, very talkative stones. I had conversations with like all of them, and it's just amazing to interact with a stone that's this old. I mean, 2850 BC.
What do they talk about?
So interestingly, I think it was this one that was like, it was almost like, it was like, hello, how are you? Like it was so funny. I was like laughing because it was very like I was expecting it to be like my daughter, you know, like very like
some loud,
very
boomy,
much,
big
like,
voice,
like cinematic, and it was like, hi. What have you got in your bag? You know, very, very like talking almost to like a child in a way. It was really, really interesting.
Some of the smaller stones, they almost say "hug me," and you'll see people all the time. They go into the circle and they'll gravitate not to the big ones, but to the little ones, and they hug them. You know, and even the ones that have fallen over, they'll sit on them because the energy is just incredible. You know, it's not a kind of a daunting. You know, as Jaya said, you know, you're not watching Excalibur here. It's not like whoa. You know, but they're friendly. It's an amazingly friendly.
It's approachable energy.
Yeah. Exactly. Very friendly, very approachable. They all wanted to be touched. The sheep were like scratching their backs against them, like kids running up, touching them. I mean, I hugged a lot of them. They were very much like, we're here, like interact with us, you know, like just, they wanted to talk just as much as we wanted to talk with them.
Wow. This is so magical, guys. This is awesome. Yeah.
Well, that's a place to start. As I say, if you're going to start here, because it kind of sets the bar, you know, it sets the tone for everything that's going to follow. We knew we were going to drop onto the Michael line. And when we dropped on there, we were going to go left to go all the way down to Land's End. We were going that way. But as a place to enter that world, you know, this is a gateway. It's an opening. It's a portal. It's an education, an introduction. You know, that's what it is. You're opening the door by going through Avebury. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very much like a gateway into moving down towards Glastonbury and onward. And it's amazing to me that 9 out of 10 people will go to Stonehenge instead of coming to Avebury. Like it's absolutely insane.
I was going to bring it up. And this is something that I've heard when people talk about stone circles, remote viewers and such will mention the difference. They'll say, yeah, Stonehenge is broken. That's for tourists. They go, it's not active anymore. Avebury, very active. And they say another one too. Y'all have two over there that are pretty active, not Stonehenge. That's for the Muggles. That's the go look over here. We talked about this in the last episode. That's all right, you guys kind of go over here, pee on this, drop ice cream on that. And then this place though has the real energy going on. Yeah, so that's interesting.
The second one is the Nine Ladies. If you ever get a chance to go to the Nine Ladies, or there's loads. I could go on forever, but there's loads of them. But I think they're all better than Stonehenge. Stonehenge is like you say, tourist.
And Jaya, you've been there to Stonehenge rather, and you can validate that comparison?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been to Stonehenge last time I was in the UK in 2022, and it was, I mean, honestly, not really worth going. The other thing is you can't even go near the stones. You're like basically shuttled in like a tourist line, and everyone's just taking selfies, and then you're shuttled out. So not only is the energy it is very like broken and jagged, but then also like you can't even interact with it. So, I mean, definitely if you want a selfie, go to Stonehenge. If you want an experience, go to Avebury.
Yeah, I went in the early 1990s when you could actually go and sit on the stones at Stonehenge. We did the whole, you know, sitting on the stone, watching the sun go down and all that kind of thing. And do you know what? I was sat on a rock. That was it. That was the extent of it. I was just sat on a rock compared to Avebury.
When did because a lot of it was reconstructed, right? With concrete and cast with concrete. And you could see concrete castings underneath sort of a stone veneer out there. And people talked a lot about this. Like 3 or 4 times it's been replaced. Yeah,
1953. They put a lot of them back up in 1953 and set them into concrete. I mean, it's you know, it's not fake. I mean, they do it all over the world. The rest of the world, they rebuild the sites. You know,
something I'm thinking about is with concrete. If you take a car battery and set it on concrete, it drains all the energy out of the battery. Do you guys know this? So that if you have a battery for like your mower or car or something like this, you need to set it up on a pallet or something. So when you go to a store, that's why they say throw it on that pallet. Yes, it's easier to move, but also because it doesn't come in contact with the ground with concrete specifically. And then what we talk about rubber insulation with shoes, plus if you're standing on concrete, right, you're not connected, you're not absorbing the energy. So the concrete pylon footings are probably what disconnected it, almost like you wearing rubber shoes against the earth rather than grounding with it, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I was going to say the only interesting part of Stonehenge as a worthwhile digression is where the stones come from, because all the blue stones obviously come from Wales, so they travel 260 miles, to get those things into the circle. But the big one in the last year has been the altar stone, because that came all the way from Scotland. So how on earth he shifted all these stones around, it's still a complete mystery. Nobody knows. They've had them on, rollers and sliding on seaweed and all this, that and the other. And yeah, the honest truth is nobody has a clue. I've got the foggiest idea how they move them.
I think the honest truth is it was pretty easy. I think it was the honest truth. And they had a technology or they had a methods probably to do with psychoacoustics or something like this.
Yeah,
that's probably pretty
sound
easy.
is what I feel when I tune into it. Is they were using sound vibration. Absolutely.
Yeah. Same technique at Avebury, just to bring us back on topic. I think the same technique was used there to get some of the bigger stones. Because there's certainly
circle back, Mark.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly two there that are on a par with Stonehenge, easily. Yeah.
Just interesting. And you guys confirm that as well. The energy there. Very cool.
I went to 2 other stone circles in Cornwall, which I'll talk about when we get there. But yeah, so as Mark said, this was our gateway. This was our gateway into Glastonbury. It was not the first time for either of us to go to Glastonbury. It was my second time. Mark, who knows how many times Mark's been there?
A few. 1 or 2.
But it was cool. It was definitely very cool to go together and also to bring Mark's daughter as well, who it was her first time. Yeah. So it was this three people with 3 different experiences and 3 different, it was very cool. But so, yeah, we went to Glastonbury, and again, it's on, the tour is on the Michael line, and then the Red Spring or the Chalice Well is on the Mary line. And so again, it's weaving like in and out here. And at Glastonbury, it's a small place with a lot of energy, and there are like 4 main sites. You've got the tour, which for me, I was not as interested in this time. I mean, we have like 1 picture of the tour. But
Billy jumped out of the car with the camera and kind of ran up to the hedge like that and went click, and that was about as close as we got. Because I mean, it does take half a day to get up there and back. If you really want to do it properly, it's not easy. They are. So that was as close as we got. Well, that's close enough. It's plenty close enough.
A great shot. Bobby
well, it is. My daughter Billy took that. So at the bottom of that, sort of off the shot to the right, that's the business end of the tour, because that's where the wells are, and the wells are, well, that's what you go for. They're the real business end of it. Yeah, there's loads going on up there. I mean, there was even an Anglo-Saxon Christian foundation up there, a church, because they've excavated this equal arm cross-shaped building that was up there. But apart from that, the wells, that's where you really want to go.
So the first well, and there's no photography allowed inside, no phones, no videos, which I love because it is inside of a cave. So there's 2 wells, the White Spring and then the Red Spring or the Chalice Well, and you do them in order. The White Spring is like literally inside this cave coming out, and it is the masculine, and it's white because there's a lot of calcium in the water. And it's like the sperm, if you will. And so the point is, first you go into the cave. It's so beautiful in there. The only light is candlelight. So there's like candelabras everywhere in the water. There's different pools you can go in, and altars everywhere, all different like aspects of the divine feminine. This is just outside of it. The water's just flowing. And we went inside, and last time I was there was winter, and so there was no way that I could swim. this time, I mean, the water was equally as cold, right? Because it comes from like the middle of the earth, so it was freezing. But I knew this time, like I was called to go in the water as cold as it was. And there was a sound healer with a beautiful crystal bowl in there. There was a guy with a drum. I mean, their voices, it was so beautiful in there, and I had like very specific intentions of cleansing, just for my own personal journey, and got in the water, and it was so cold, but like I was bawling my eyes out. Like I knew what I wanted to release, and I was like, I'm going for it. And I did. And I was crying so loud, but because of the gush of the water coming out and the music from everywhere and the acoustics, like, nope, you couldn't hear. And so it was just so beautiful. And every time I tried to get out, the water was like, no, come back in, dunk again. Like, you're here for a reason. And so I wish I was able to show. Most people swim nude there, so you can't, take photos. But like for anyone who's thinking about going there, it's such a beautiful healing experience to just like fully release whatever you're ready to let go of. And there you can light little candles for yourself, and there's places to write your intentions. It was so beautiful. I went in with Billy. She had an amazing download for her intention. It was so beautiful. And then we got out and we walked just like a block away to the Red Spring, or the Chalice Well. And it is the red spring because it is, as you can see, this color because of the iron content. And so this is the feminine. This is the blood. This is the womb. Some say Glastonbury is also like the womb chakra of the earth. And it just comes out the water. And people have been told, like, of all different religions and lineages, to go to Glastonbury and drink from these one or the other springs and been healed.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with the red one because it's so high in iron that they recommend you only take very small sips of it. You wouldn't drink a beaker full of this, but it is safe to drink. Yeah, more so, I think, than the white one. The white one's disgusting. It tastes like rotten eggs. But this one is quite safe to drink.
Well, I drank them both.
Amounts. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking for a picture of the well, which I guess didn't make it in here.
I mean, for this particular journey, I mean, you have to make the right decision when you arrive at the right site. And for me, I didn't particularly want to go back into either of the wells because I've done them both in the dim and distant past. But I had a fantastic experience at this one, at the Chalice Well, because I'd parked up on the car park, and the people I was talking to and the interaction with the staff and the owner of the property. And at one point, the High Druid for Stonehenge came through, who I happen to know. So I'm just sat in the car park. I'm just in heaven. I'm absolutely in heaven. I'm just sat there, with the sun beating down, watching the bees crawling all over the bushes in front of me, making honey. Absolutely phenomenal. So again, even if you don't actually go any further than, the door, if you like, the gateway, there will be something at these sites for you. That's the whole point. But Jaya went in.
Is that rock a giant vagina?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
It is, and I guess some of my pictures didn't make it in here, but the well itself is gorgeous, and there's again a lot of statues. And this one is outside. And so again, it's that like inner and outer. First you go into the cave and you do your cleansing work, your release work, your healing work. And then you go to this site, which is outside. It's, in the sun. It's, yeah, it's a very special thing. And as Mark said, you don't have to drink or anything, if you do as you feel called, but the land is absolutely working with you when you're there, for sure.
There are also a series of white thorns. I think last time I went, there was 6 of them. They knew where they all were, and they're all grade 1 listed. You can't go pulling bits off the white thorn trees. But then right up at the far end, at the back of the garden, they were doing some clearing work, and they actually found a 7th tree that wasn't listed, that wasn't protected, and they took some cuttings about 15 years ago off those. So who knows, we may be getting more of these propagated white medieval thorn trees, in the future.
I've never heard of that.
Well, as a continuum, yeah, but that's where they are. If you want to go find the white thorns, they're in the chalice well. That's where they are.
Say that sentence again, please.
Which one? Yeah, if you want to find them. Yeah, if you want to find the white thorns, that's the place to go. Is the chalice well, because they're hiding away in the gardens.
It's just such a cool sentence. You want to find the white thorns, it's in the chalice well. Like, think about it. That's like Zeppelin lyrics, dude. That's so cool. That's just so cool.
It's real as well.
I know. That's the thing is you're being serious.
Jaya
it's just
will tell you. She'll tell you. Yeah, 110% dead real. That's where they are. You go find them.
Oh, cool. Very interesting. I've never even heard of this, which is great. Again, it's just magic.
Yeah, there's a lot of
beautiful shot.
So much magic. So then this is the Abbey, and this is where, so last time we spoke about Valley Crew and how it was actually the first Christian church, the first church in the West, after all the disciples went with Joseph of Arimathea to the UK. That's where it actually is, right? Which nobody knows except for the people who listened to last week's episode. And this is what they say this is. So this is Glastonbury Abbey. And even though it's not, it is on the Michael line, and it is extremely potent, especially, this is my favorite part of Glastonbury, energetically. And this here, and I have more pictures close up, but just so you can kind of see like a zoom out, this is where the high altar was originally. And it's right on the line. And it just shows you, like, they did not build anything by accident. They knew exactly what they were doing. And so it is super potent. And both last time I was there 3 years ago and this time, I mean, it felt the same. I mean, just very, very alive, very potent energy. Did a lot of healing work in there. So this is the inner part of what's left of the Abbey.
So cool.
I think I said last time, the thing with Glastonbury is you've almost got a cake, and what you've got to do is get rid of the icing. You know, the icing on the surface is King Arthur, and it's all shiny and sparkling and legendary and this, that, and the other. But if you get rid of that and you just, no, we're not having that at all, and dig a bit, really go for it and dig a bit and open yourself up, you'll find that there is this cake underneath, this solid foundation of history, archaeology, fact. It's a hell of a site. It's an incredible spiritual place. I mean, I was really pleased to see on the guidebook for Glastonbury, they've actually put the Lake Village on, which is an Iron Age village that's been preserved in the marshland around the Tor, around the village. That's now made it onto the guide, which I think is like, you've got some real stuff on here. But in medieval times, obviously, they were all for keeping you away from the sites they wanted to protect and then creating other sites for their own purposes. In this case, they wanted King Arthur here so they could dig him up and go, hey, guess what? He's not coming back to lead the Welsh, because the kings of England were having so much trouble with the battles with the Welsh. If they could produce a body, then, Arthur was clearly not coming back. So, bang on cue, there's the body, That's really where this all comes from. That's universally acknowledged now. But, for goodness sake, don't give up on it. What a place. What a stonking place. Jaya will back me up on that. The atmosphere, the whole, it was incredible.
It's amazing.
It's absolutely beautiful. And so this is the high altar from the opposite direction. So we've just seen it from here, and now it's from here. And here close up, and someone's brought an offering. So we waited, Billy and I, Mark's daughter, until everyone kind of walked away. And then just right here, we just laid down. And it was amazing because we for like 30 to 40 minutes, we didn't speak at all. We were both super deep. And then at the end, we shared, and we had both seen basically the same thing, which was a cave, like an opening, like a room underneath where we were sitting.
Damn, what's in there?
Well, there was a man in there. And he looked like Joseph of Arimathea, but he wasn't dead. It wasn't his body by any means. It wasn't his bones. But it was very. But he was also a Merlin, which Mark will tell you. Merlin wasn't like a specific person. It's a Merlin. It was very, very interesting. But I was also given another symbol, which I ended up integrating into my tattoo, which I got the next day. They were like, oh, you need to make this one adjustment, which I did because of it. But the symbol was a part of an ancient Old Testament symbol, Solomonic symbol, and it also the first way they showed it to me was like, this is actually the inlet underground, so like the room. So it was very, very interesting. And to go back to the symbol that I talked about in the last episode. So when we were in Glastonbury, we did, on the main street looking at the shops, there was a book in the window that was like pagan symbols. And that was like right there on the cover. And so I looked inside, and that symbol is the pagan symbol for witch. And so later on, I was meditating on this, and basically the point of why Joseph showed it to me when we were at his grave, and why I've been seeing, even though these are biblical sites, the symbols that I have been given and the information that I had been given of all of them were, for lack of a better word, pagan. And I say lack of a better word because I don't think that's really as descriptive as I want it to be for this. But the point is that it's pre-biblical. And the message that I was getting from all of this, and especially like later when I show you the other stone circles, was like, there's so much, there's all this stuff going on of like, well, the Christians wanted to convert everyone and blah, blah, blah. None of that stuff actually came from Christianity. None of that stuff actually came from the teachings of Jesus. The teachings were not about like, let's murder everyone who doesn't become one of us. The teachings were like, we've got all this wisdom that we've been basically given directly from God, and we're sharing it with everyone. And it wasn't actually very different from the earth wisdom that they were using before. And so all of these places had information from before that time. And it's not in any kind of, what's the word? Like, it's not arguing with it at all. It's the same. And it's the people and it's the dogma that has been put on it that's like, no, this is wrong because it's different. It's actually not different. It's actually the same teachings. And that's something that every one of these sites has showed me in one way or another, even like more and more deeply each site I've been to, which I think is really beautiful and worth noting. Yeah, and I'll talk about it even more when we go deeper, farther south. But so it was here in Glastonbury when I kind of first realized like what they were trying to show me at Valley Crew, and what Joseph of Arimathea was showing me. Like, I was like, I want to see the Grail. And he was like, go underneath of that. Go before that. Like, why do you think I came here? I came here because of the energy. I came here because of this wisdom that was already here. And so it's not about like, this religion is the right religion, make everybody convert. It's about like, we're just giving you wisdom. Can you just take it? Because this is the way. And that just so happens to be what the first church was called, the way. It wasn't, Jesus wasn't like, make it all about me. It's meant to be, it's Christ, Christian. Like, he didn't care about that. It was the way. I'm teaching you the way. Just take it,
I think Jesus would have a real problem with all that. And I've actually written a movie about this that I will not release until my parents are long dead, but for personal reasons. But it's a great movie depicting this exact thing. It's sort of Jesus's point of view of how he views now. It's an act 1, act 2 thing. It's very cool. Anyway, we'll tease that now. Look forward to that later on. Mark, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was just going to say the whole point of Joseph. Jaya's just nailed it, because they didn't have any church. There was no Christianity when Joseph was around. They were standing on the shoulders of giants. They were following on from the Babylonians and the Egyptians and the Jews, and the whole point of it is what then happens next, which is the British Church, the British Celtic Church with the Chaldees. And they merged somehow in this country. They ended up merging with the Druids. So absolutely every word of what Jaya's just said, that's the point of Joseph. That's what Joseph's all about. He's actually showing you the reality before the whole thing turned into the whole, Constantine, this is how we're going to do it thing, like 300 years later. You're back with the absolute beginnings of the primitive church, and the British church is the one that actually tells you all of that. So Jaya's absolutely 100% nailed it. It's in my King Arthur book anyway. I'll get the plug in now, get it out of the way. This photo as well kind of nails it. I knew Jaya was going to do this. Go on, I'll hand it back to you.
Yeah, and so then, we both had our own experiences, which, as I said, once we shared, they were very similar. And we sort of came out of this meditative state and sat up, and Billy captured this photo, which is exactly,
Incredible.
You've got the rainbow, you've got, let's see if it'll let me zoom in. You've got this beautiful... Look at this rainbow.
Yeah, that's pretty
remarkable. This photo has not been edited at all. Look at this piece down here as well. I mean...
Yeah, there's an orb there as well. I can see there's a side
the
beam.
Blue, there's
a side beam going out.
There's this little double. These are angels. And there's this orb, which I don't think it will zoom enough, but yep, there, you can see the
there we go. Look at that, yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot in it.
It's got definition. Look, it's got shading on that upper right.
I can totally vouch for that not being touched up in any way, shape or form either, because Billy showed me that pretty much the day it was taken. That is exactly how it happened when we were still on the road. In fact, I looked at that. It's
just incredibly symmetrical in an interesting way. The clouds, the sun right there, and just off, obviously not right in the middle, but even the breaks in the towers there, how it's been destroyed, it is even. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Do we know how this was destroyed? World War II or anything like that? Or
no, it's dissolution of the monasteries that started the rot. It's 1536. I think it was Henry VIII. And the reason that this is where it gets really interesting, actually. The reason he particularly targeted Glastonbury was that it had one of the biggest monastic libraries in Britain. So in the process of taking this out, he also took out a tremendous chunk of British history. Some of the kind of leftovers, the throwaway comments that came out of the literature that was in that library is what we get now as the Arthur legend. Goodness only knows what was in the bits he got rid of, that he destroyed. But it was a absolutely phenomenal librine centre. Oh, that's a nice one. A Templar cross. That comes as no surprise.
Yeah, this is the altar in this church here. So the altar's just here, and this is where I sit and do healings for people when I'm here. And the experience has been quite extraordinary. And actually, you're not allowed to go up to this altar. They have it roped off. But I just wait till no one's looking, and I go.
Fuck 'em, I get it. I love it.
I mean,
live your life.
So, very, 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 very special place, very beautiful. So for my money, I'll spend all day in here, and the grounds are gorgeous as well. I mean, we spent 3 hours just walking the grounds. It's very interesting.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say they were setting up for a concert, and the next day it was a Keen concert, and it's just crazy to me. That's this super sacred, holy site on this ley line, and they're just having they were rolling in 30 porta potties. What? Absolutely.
Yeah,
crazy.
the imagery, and so they play their concert right there.
Yeah.
It makes me want to play a concert there, but not for the same reason.
Cool for sure.
That is so cool. Yeah, it would be. Well, I mean, if you didn't exploit it, right? If you're not there to be a dickhead about it. Do you mind going back to the front part of that video? What I'm reminded of in the tower there, I think it's to the right 3.
Oh, not this video?
I don't think so. It's wherever you ended on the tower. No, ma'am. So it's going to be 3 to the right of that. 2 to the left. Oh, that right there. Okay. So what that reminds me of is those basalt columns, right? The side of Devil's Tower has those. Just that first tower there, that first shot. Yeah. It reminds me of those, like the Scottish Highland, like the hills right there. Like there's some oceans that have this hexagonal pattern.
Oh, Giant's Causeway. You're thinking
there
of
you go, Giant's Causeway. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Ireland and Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah. All that right there reminds me of that. If you go back just a little bit to the full shot, and you can see the hexagonal and even how they like break off to form, but even the slender ones and then how they start, it almost mimics that structure out in nature. It's kind of what it reminds me of.
Well, they reckon a lot of the Gothic architecture, which this was based on, is based on the fact that Druids used to meet in tree groves, where trees are in a circle and all the branches would meet overhead. So when it came to building chapels, especially the forest chapels, the Gothic architecture meets overhead, and they would cover it in foliage and then paint it shades of the forest, greens and browns and golds and things like that. And that goes back to, just to stay on topic, it goes back to this merger of the early, Eastern Jerusalem form of Christianity and the Joseph Druidic British version of Christianity. It's the merger of the two. Because, you don't find any plans for churches in the Bible. They never get a single mention. You're not told how to do it or what directions to put it in or what colours to put it in or what sites to put it on. There's this huge list of what to do when you're building a church. None of that, not a single word of that comes out of the Bible. None of it. So it has to come from somewhere. And that's where they think it comes from. And then later on, of course, that's adopted by the Templars. So, it spreads everywhere.
So interesting. I've got more to say about this in the afterthought. I've noted it. Oh, go ahead, Ron. What?
Just Giant's Causeway is also amazing. I've been there, been fortunate enough to be there, and it is such a trip to be standing on that and being like, this is ancient, but I feel like I'm in a video game.
Yeah, we're going to pull it up. Incredible. I've got that in Devil's Tower. We're going to make some interesting connections, especially to your trees, because that's what I think they were honoring, and we'll talk about it in the afterthought. Very, very cool, though. Extremely cool.
Yeah, so this was Glastonbury, and that's where we parted ways. Well, we drove.
Well, we got you down to St. Michael's Mount, didn't we, in Cornwall?
Yeah.
And then we had just enough time the following day. I think you were trying to aim to get into St. Michael's if you could. And me and Billy on our drive out, Billy was like, oh, you've got to go to the beach. You've got to go to the beach. Got a nice little interesting story. We parked up on the beach. And, of course, it's pay and display when you park. So Billy's like, oh, I just want photos. Don't bother paying. I just want to run on the beach and get some photos. So she runs down onto the sand. And the next minute, I've got it here. She's coming back up the beach with this. Look at this.
What? She just grabbed that rock and ran back with it?
She said, the rock wanted to come home with me, so I'm coming back with this rock. And she's running back up the beach going, open the back door, I've got a rock. So she throws that into the back of the car. It's huge. It weighs a ton. It's an enormous, great big piece of rock. So I've actually got a piece of St. Michael's Mount now as a doorstop in the lounge. So I thought that's typical. That's typical of her doing that. So I had a car full of sand and this whopping great stone in the back. So we actually brought a piece of the beginning of our kind of separate bit of the journey. And that's the end of Jaya's bit. That kind of leads nicely on to Jaya heading off to St. Michael's, which is the next photo. So that's the beach the rock came off there, just to the right.
And is this a place that floods out and it's inaccessible for a certain time? Okay.
Yeah. So this is the causeway, the walkway out there, and you only have a couple hours per day. And I'll show you, I walked back when it was just coming in, and I had to take my shoes off and because it gets when the tide, you can only walk when the tide's out, and then when it comes in, you have to go by boat. But so this is St. Michael's Mount, and it's on the Michael ley line, and the Sword of Michael. It's one of the churches. It's the second one. And then it goes down to Mont Saint-Michel in France, which is next. And so basically in approximately 495 AD, a Cornish fisherman was out there fishing, and he had an apparition. St. Michael came to him and warned him, turn around, you're in danger. And so because of this and all of the churches on this line, and they literally make a straight line. Like, it's not like maybe if you believe in energy, it's literally just geographical through the world. They make a straight line, like perfectly, which is amazing. All of these places where these apparitions of Saint Michael, where he basically came to people and was like, hey, you need to move, and saved them. And so that was the beginning of it. The warning of the danger, and then they built the church at around 1,000, and it first became like a Benedictine church. It's still a working church now, but it's been built over. So there's like the archway, and I'll show you some photos in a minute, are still present, but it's not the original building anymore. However, it's on the ley line. Like, the church itself is built on top of the line. So there's one specific spot where you can sit, which is where I spent 4 days in a row, just meditating in there and doing candle service for my clients. Absolutely beautiful. But here's me walking up. I think I already took the sound off of this one. And so here's where you walk, and there's like seaweed and everything, because in like 2 hours it's going to be covered by water.
That's so wild.
It's so crazy. And then you go, it's a very long hike up. One cool thing, if you're a pilgrim, you can let them know you're a pilgrim and you can get free entry. Otherwise, it's 14 pounds to go to the castle. So this is the castle, which has been built around the church. And you got to like sort of go through, there's a lot of very, very cool architectural detail here. And each one of these on each window is different. You can see even these two are slightly different.
Yeah.
And so you've got to go through the castle. And interestingly, like right when you walk in, there's this. And there's
Arabic?
I think it's Arabic. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, that's definitely Arabic. So it looks Crusader period, actually. It looks like something that maybe the owners of the castle have brought back in that text is probably 1300s, 1400s, somewhere in that sort of period. It's very similar to something I've got on the wall, actually.
Right. Yeah, it reminded me of that. And it's so beautiful, but there's like no placard on the wall or anything. Yeah. It's just like bang on when you walk into this castle is this. Which is really beautiful. But so here's up at the top of the castle.
Whoa, that is amazing.
Absolutely stunning.
That tower is very similar to the tower at Rennes-le-Château. You know, the Mary Tower, Magdalene Tower. Very similar in design to the one at Rennes-le-Château.
Wow.
Was that this one? And then here is inside the church. It's very small, little chapel.
Dude, that right there, those that symbol with all of the orgone energy catchers on top of it. Look at that thing. It reminds me of the top of like temples in China and stuff like that. But those are also found at the top of all sorts of megalithic sites for energy harvesting, allegedly. Same configuration.
Originally, that would have been outside. It's the top of a medieval cross. It's off a medieval cross shaft.
And it's very interesting because we've got Jesus, we've got the Father, the Son, we've got the Mary on one side, and then we've got the King.
See, medieval
looks like a pharaoh.
Well, the medieval Trinity was different from ours because instead of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, they actually had Father, Son, and Mother Mary.
Yeah, they would have had a female component, wouldn't they?
This one is not a Trinity; it's four because they've got Father, Son, Mother Mary, and the King. So it's four-sided, and they've just decided to put the King into that holy holy quad now, which I think is very arrogant.
They associate themselves, right? They're dope ass by association.
So the organ is gorgeous and amazing.
Wow.
And then we've got all of these, again, they're all slightly different, and I'm sure they're cymatics.
Yeah.
Here's another view of this guy.
I mean, the key to any church is just pay attention to the detail. make sure if you're going into somewhere like this that you're definitely in the room, pick up on what's in there. That's the key to it. You don't have to be a genius or an archaeologist or anything. All you have to do is turn on and tune in, and that's it. The building will tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And this I just noticed today. So these are actually like from the 1600s. So these were put in way later. And this one is Saint Francis, and this is Dutch here.
Franciscans.
Which is very significant for me, but you've got Saint Francis, San Francesco, and you've got the skull here just by him representing Sorella Morte, or Sister Death. So this was a very cool thing for me.
I like the colors. The colors of those are amazing.
It's captivating, isn't it?
Yeah, really, really beautiful. And then you've got this.
Hey.
What's interesting about this statue is you can see, so this is St. Michael and this is Lucifer, the fallen angel, and you can see he's holding the sword, but he's not holding the sword in a way that he's going to harm him.
Yeah.
He's not holding the sword to kill him. And you can see that with this hand, he's holding his hand out to him.
Yeah. Like join forces, right? Like, let's stop battling. This is about unification. We're both created by God. We're both the same thing. Let's unify.
And you won't normally see this. You'll normally see where he's holding the sword from the handle or like about to strike, and he's not here. You can't hurt anyone holding a sword like this except for yourself. You cut yourself.
And that's the thing, is it shows two things: that he's not there to hurt, or if he is, he recognizes that it's going to hurt him as well. So this is what also the struggle is. If you go to kill your adversary, it's going to hurt. It's going to kill you too. It's part of you. And so the merging is what's better, not the conquering. Incredibly cool image. Way to pick it out.
Yeah, I loved this. Here's another story here, and Michael's at the top, and then you've got the altar, and just in front of the altar, which you'll see in a video in a sec, there's a burial mound because they found bones of a giant, of a 7-foot tall giant.
Of course they did.
When they did the excavation. Which I wasn't like as concerned with, because that's not really what I was there for, but it's just quite interesting. And here's the main row. So this is Michael, and then you'll see the Abrahamic names for each angel around him.
This is just stunning. Absolutely stunning.
There should be more videos.
I mean,
and
the
Mark,
giants.
you've been here?
Well, I've not actually been inside this one. No, this one's Jaya's, definitely.
Does this
Jaya's.
make you want to go to this one?
It does. I'm just saying, though, the thing with giants is that a lot of these sites are on top of prehistoric sites, which are older. And I'd be absolutely amazed if there wasn't something on that island to begin with. But the other side of it as well is that an awful lot of the knights that were buried around the altar were 7 foot tall. They were big blokes, you know what I mean? People think of medieval people as being tiny. They weren't. I've excavated the bodies of knightly burials. Most of them are over 6'6". It's not unusual. So yeah, I'd say that it's quite significant depending on the age of the skeleton. Did the Templars have some say in this, which I'm pretty sure they probably did, or is it built on an even older site? Which again, those are open questions. Which both of those are important. Mount St. Michael, though, for goodness' sake, it's got to be older than it appears. There's no doubt about that at all.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, their theory, because they don't know, even the people who work there, run the mountain out, they don't know. But their theory is that they either killed the giant because they were afraid of him because he was a giant, or that he just died there and they just buried, covered him basically. Yeah,
there are legends of Cornish giants as well. That has to be said as a general, just throw it out there. There were giants in Cornwall into historical period, but it depends on your definition of a giant, I suppose.
Yeah, it's relative, right?
Yeah.
Here's from just coming outside of the church. And so right here, where we just passed, right to the left of these, is where the ley lines converge. So the Mary and the Michael ley line touch, but that part of the island is not accessible to the public. Conveniently.
Yet. And maybe not to the public, but I see you guys getting access to places like this. I think that your pilgrimage will call for you to go there, and it will be a requirement for you to have access to these things. And it will be easy, by the way.
My daughter wants to go back. I mean, we were on the beach, literally that beach you can see in this video footage. That's where she came running up with a stone and threw it in the back of the car. That's the closest we got to this, and we got some great photos. You know, it was a good view of the site, but she definitely wants to go back. Yeah, that's the view basically.
And then that's when tide comes in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so only one time in my 4 days going back, I missed it and I had to take a boat. And of course the boat was called Mary. That took me out,
Beautiful.
which was super beautiful. But I don't know what happened here. A lot of my videos seem to get lost, but there's one of me walking and the water's like up to my knees and all the seaweed and like the fish. And it's really, really cool. And I think the fact that like only some hours in the day you can go out by foot and the other times you have to come by boat, and that it gets washed every day by the sea is just like such a beautiful metaphor for this. And to go in, and I mean, I did so many healings in there and candle service for my clients, and to just like, you know, walk through the salt water on my way back and just get like fully washed is just, it's really beautiful. And again, like it's work to get up there. Like, look at it, you know, you've got to get out there and then you've got to basically climb a mountain to get to the top. But it's absolutely worth it. It was super beautiful.
I mean, as far as the UK is concerned, this is not necessarily on any tourist route. You know, it's not the place that people gravitate automatically to. It is a real challenge to get to this. It really
because
is.
it's difficult. And I think that this is, you know, taboos are like that too, right? The hidden shit hides you from the real shit. And if you're willing to do the work and put it in, climb that mountain at a certain time, make sure you don't get washed away. It's really interesting what you can discover there. That's where the true magic is.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark, do you want to talk about Land's End before I go into the other stone circles in Cornwall?
Yeah. I can chuck that a bit in. It's just a personal thing. You know, I've lived in this country for a number of years, a long time. The two places I've never actually made it to ever is Land's End, which is the end of Cornwall. Excuse me. And then up in Scotland, there's John O'Groats, which is as high as you can get. Well, I've gone up Scotland as far as Inverness, so I've been quite a long way up Scotland, but never really done Cornwall, you know. Kind of got to Glastonbury and we've done Somerset, and to some extent we got into Devon, but no, we thought this journey, we're going to do it. We've got to do it. This is part of our pilgrimage. We have to do it. We're literally going to drive off the bottom end of Britain. We're literally going to go boom, straight off the end, Land's End. That's where we're going. So on this particular, that's it. It's important as well because it is actually the termination of the Michael line. That's where it ends. So if you really want to close off that bottom half of the line, you know, both of us in agreement, jumped into the car, me and Billy, off we go, zooming down there. I have to say going down was great because the things that pop up, there's all these little chapels everywhere and Celtic wheel crosses on, you know, village greens and duck ponds and you name it. It's a beautiful, beautiful drive. But when you get there, it's actually a bit of a disappointment because you shoot into this car park area and there's this big building there with this letters on the front that says Land's End. But as soon as you shoot in, they've already got you on camera and it costs you £8 to park. So you're on the end and it's like, oh, damn it. You know, they're making money out of this already and you can't escape it because they've already got you. But when you walk through, it's quite nice. They've actually got it all right. They're using the money wisely. They've got a nice visitor centre there, you know, and a cafe and a coffee shop. And it's really nice on the actual bit that says Land's End. And then if you go through all of that and you get to the bit where the land runs out, just a little short way out to sea, you can see these rocks jutting out with this little lighthouse on. That is literally the end. And this ley line goes straight through the middle of that lighthouse. That's where it is. And as you gaze off, of course, across the ocean, the next thing that you hit once you've gone across the Atlantic is America. So actually, we're stood there at the end of Land's End. We're staring across the ocean. And we're looking at you.
I was winking at you and doing the robot.
You were waving like that. I know you were waving. Well,
Absolutely.
we were stood on the end of Land's End and we were waving back. So it wasn't, how can I put it? It wasn't a big spiritual experience, but in terms of physically being in the right place at the right time, absolutely 110%. That's where we were meant to be. And it kind of signed off the journey. It signed off a much longer journey for me because obviously I've waited, a long time to actually get there and stand on that piece of earth and go, yes, this is the country I live in. This is important. I've got to the absolute southern termination. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone near to that. I've come close to it, but never actually gone and done it. So for me, that was really significant. And then we turned round and we managed to drive all the way back in a day. So we stopped off at Tewkesbury coming back, which was quite nice. But that's not really part of the journey. But yes, we came all the way back. So actually from where we live, which is right in the middle of the British Isles, we're in the centre. It's not out of the question to do this pilgrimage for people in this country. Why don't more people do it? Why don't people just go and, get hold of this map, get hold of the sites and, maybe at some point we'll drop in at Avebury and then go the other way, go up the line, up into East Anglia. Maybe that's what we need to do to complete it. But from our point of view, that was a really nice rounded conclusion to what we were doing. And we didn't just stop at the big rock that we got from Mount St. Michael. We picked up a few other stones as well and bits and bobs because the geology down there is quite stunning. It's different from anywhere else in the country. So it was good. Yeah, it was really, really good. But the journey back just took ages. You know what I mean? It was like 5 hours up to Tewkesbury and then another sort of 3 hours on top of that. But it was well worth doing. Well, absolutely well worth doing. And I'm interested to find out what Jaya did after we disappeared. The idea that she went off hunting stone circles, that's fantastic.
I'm going to pop in here before Jaya hops in and say that I'm hearing tour opportunity here. Maybe you lead a tour of folks and drive them up with different caravan situations. You stay at different places along the way. There are people we can connect you with that can help with that, especially over there. And I think that your idea of getting folks out there it needs to happen, but I think that you should do it. I think you should be the one taking them out there to lead them around these things. I think that'd be so cool.
If I had a week to play with, I would join the dots, and the 2-part program we've done with yourself, Jaya and Jaya and myself, I would join the dots. I'd spend the beginning of it up in North Wales. I'd do the sites we did up there because that's step 1. Step 2, I'd bring you down to somewhere like Hereford or Tewkesbury or somewhere in the Midlands and do the sites around there, and then drop onto this line and then go for it, and go all the way down to Mount St. Michael in Cornwall and Land's End. And you could very reasonably do it. Let's be a bit ambitious here. 8 to 10 days. I think if you had 8 to 10 days complete, start to finish, you could probably cover, 10 days. We could do what we managed to achieve. But honestly, somebody needs to give me a jolly good poking and make it happen.
I'm going to go ahead and say this is the new ayahuasca journey because people will go down to Iquitos and spend 2 weeks in the jungle ayahuasca. I think that this is the new ayahuasca journey. Do this instead of going down there to do ayahuasca. Maybe, I think that this is an option.
2 weeks, cool. 2 weeks on this and you're making history. You're walking through 2,000
I'm so
years.
Here for this, dude. I'm going on this tour with you. So if you guys are interested, and this is serious, let's go ahead and just get this ball rolling here. Write us in if you're serious about this or you'd even like to help. Please write in expandingrealitypodcast@gmail.com. It's located down below, and we'll get you connected and Mark, and we'll get it all worked out, and we'll do this dope ass thing. Maybe Jaya will come back up and join us for this. Does that interest you, Jaya?
Well, yeah. I haven't talked to either of you about this, but I feel absolutely called to guide a tour of this, and I would love to do it with Mark, of course.
We're talking.
I took a poll on my Instagram, and it was 100% answered yes that they want to do this. So.
All right. So let's put it together, guys.
Up for sure. And this is going to be 2027 sacred sites of the UK. I think 2 weeks is good because it's
Yeah.
also so much energy that you don't want to just run from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing. You need a little bit of like some hours of integration after, so I think 2 weeks would be absolutely perfect. So let's
All
do
right.
it.
We got the ball rolling. We've put it out
Yeah.
there. All of our energies are here for it. And guys, like I said, if you want, right in. So be participatory in this universe because that's your job, right? Come on out. So let's do this. This is so
Right.
cool. I am so
Absolutely.
fired up. Okay, Jaya, please.
Yay. Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, so my goal with coming here, like I just knew I needed to be at the St. Michael's Mount. Like I said, I spent 4 days, today being the fourth, just like several hours a day in there and sitting on the spot of the ley line of the Michael line. Amazing healings, really, really beautiful, beautiful work. And then I realized that Cornwall has the most sacred sites per square inch than like anywhere else in the world, which I
Yeah,
didn't
we
know.
we were just driving past them. You know what I mean? They were like every, mile was something. Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, and I was like, well, maybe I should go to some of these other ones while I'm here. And so just like the universe kind of worked it out to take me to three other sites, and two of which were stone circles. And the first one is known as the Mary Maiden's Stone Circle, and it is on the Michael line. There are 19 stones in a circle, and you can see here there's like an empty space. I think that there was a stone in the center as well. Like no grass grows there. You can see it's like I stood on top of it for a long time. And I didn't want to look up anything about this circle before I went. So I just went and I just stood in the center. And here's me walking to the center. So you can kind of see like they're not big. And these are quartz as well. So these are conductors and amplifiers of energy. And I just stood there and I just asked it. I was like, what happened here? And I saw all of these women like dancing in white dresses, like super joyful, super happy, really beautiful. And then I looked it up, and that's exactly what it was used for. Fertility festivals, like sacred dance movement. It really, really beautiful. And the person that I went with, who's kind of like a little bit newer to like understanding energy, and he was like, well, is it going to be scary? Like, did they use it for, is it evil? And this is like what Mark was saying about Avery. And I was like, it's literally a conductor of energy. So you can use that energy and funnel it towards something quote unquote evil or something, quote unquote good. It's neutral. It's energy, right? So just like each one of us has energy and we can use it for something good or something, whatever, not good. Same kind of thing. But it was really joyful. It was really beautiful. I was super tired when I got there, and just standing here for like a few minutes, I was like, just charge me up. And it did. It was just like, wah, 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 like Super Mario getting the mushroom,
So
like
cool.
I was like,
Cool.
I feel so much better. And I'm not a coffee drinker. Before I got there, I was like, can we stop and get some, like I hadn't slept a lot the night before. And then I was like, I'm good now. Like I felt so much better. So this was the Mary Maidens on the Michael line. And then the next one is my favorite. So this is the Boscanoon Stone Circle. And where this one you can see is kind of like, I mean, this is the road right here. It's just out there in a field, which also like, how
Look
cool
how-
is that?
And look how
Anyone can
lush.
go.
Oh, go ahead. I apologize.
No, it's okay. Anyone can just go for free. You just park your car and like walk up to it, which I think is just amazing. Like if this were in the US, it'd be a whole different situation. But it's very pure because they haven't used it for anything else. They haven't done anything. And I was like, I kind of want to come back here at night and do a ritual. I didn't end up doing that, but next time, because you can, right? You could do whatever you want with it. It's just there.
Wow.
And so then the next one is Boscanoon, and this one this is Mary Maidens. You walk on a little pathway, which again, some of my things didn't come, but this one is more hidden. So it's like a 10-minute easy hike, but it's very hidden. And behind where the picture is taken, it's like you kind of go underneath this little like tree cove to get there. So it's a lot more sheltered. And this one is on the Mary line. And this one is also 19 stones around, which also quartz. And then there's this center stone. And some say that it fell over, but I don't believe or feel that at all. I believe that it was, they put it like that on purpose to like direct and conduct energy. This one is said to be like for like tracking the stars, basically. That they like mapped solar and lunar energies here, and a lot of these circles as well. Like this point where that stone is the crossing of the Marianne Michael line, and it is one of the most potent geomantic sites in the world, right there. So I'm not surprised that showing the picture of it blasted my internet out.
Yeah, they're like, no.
But again, like, so me being like, oh, opening up to connect with Mary, which is an energy I know very, very well from my work and just my life, and touched the stone. And it was, again, like the mother of the mother of the mother. It was so much more ancient than Mary energy. It was so beautiful. And as soon as I touched it, it was just like, bam, healing, like spreading everywhere. And the person that I was with, I was like, okay, come here. You need a healing. Do you want one? Yes. Okay. Like, it was just like instant. Like it was so, so beautiful. Let me see if I can share again.
It's an interesting pilgrimage to do because you're dealing with two time periods. You're dealing with prehistory and prehistoric, which is this, which, as Jaya rightly says, lays the foundation for everything. This is where we're coming from. This is the foundation of our period now. And then it just sort of creeps into the beginning of our 2,000 years of history now. It just kind of comes in at the beginning. So you've got the leftovers, the kind of fading just at the end of that period before it all suddenly goes modern. So it's just to do those two areas, those two zones of history. Magical, absolutely magical, perfect.
Yeah, this is 2500 BC.
Yeah.
This stone circle. It was absolutely beautiful. There's been so much gorgeous and potent energy through this whole journey, but I think like that spot was the most, it was just effortless. It was just such effortless grace, and just such like a reminder of like, we don't have to work so hard to receive grace. It's just there. And such a gift that it's there just out in the open, and like a 10-minute hike, there you are. And so I absolutely 100% want to lead ritual and ceremony in these stone circles. And if anyone listening is on board with that, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Reach out to her. She's linked down below. Instagram, probably the best. You've got a booking as well that's linked down there, but reach out to her, how she can be found. And that sounds amazing. Yeah, to go out there and do the sort of phone it in thing. Can you send energy that way? It's just energy, right? Just beams right to you.
Oh yeah, I've done healings for people remotely everywhere in all these sites and from anywhere. And I think I mentioned last time, people will like know what the inside of the church looks like or wherever from where I am, just from receiving that way. So absolutely, yeah. And I am going to, on June 26th, lead basically like a transmission of all of this energy with a meditation and a group healing that anyone can join. And I'll have the link for that in my like IG link, in my main link. It's going to be really beautiful to just, there's just been so many gates open and so much transmission coming through. And I just want to really share that with everybody because there's just so much healing to have. So yeah, it's going to be called Holy Fire.
Holy Fire. Get your healing on, gang. I love it. It's linked down below how to find all that. Absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome, gang. This part 2 has been incredible. Your pilgrimage continues is all I'm hearing. Now we're all excited to hop on this and join you for this. So you guys laid the groundwork for it. You did some amazing things on this. And now you are calling us all on some interesting pilgrimages here. So I would definitely rather go do this in ayahuasca in a jungle with you guys. This sounds amazing. This calls to me more. This resonates with me more is how I'll say it. Let's kick it over to the afterthought here. But you know how we do. I'd like to know what gets y'all out of bed every morning. And it may have changed since a couple of episodes ago since we asked. So Jaya, if you don't mind, let us know. And then Mark will end with you, sir. So Jaya, what gets you out of bed every single morning? Keeps you moving forward.
Well, it kind of is the same as last time, but also I would say just the possibilities, like literally the infinite and endless possibilities that could meet me at any moment as long as I stay open and present to it. That's beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. Mark?
Well, it's the same as last time, really. The chase is better than the catch. It's an adventure, isn't it? You know what I mean? Life is a quest. I never want to get to the end of this. It's the most fun you can have with your clothes on, you know what I mean? I mean, tomorrow I'm doing a talk at a Viking thing all about Vikings. So tomorrow's all Viking-y. So, I just love it. Absolutely love it. That's what gets me out of bed in the morning, dearie me. And if people want to come and join us, come and join us. You know, the enthusiasm, the excitement, the spirituality. And like Jaya said, the energy's already there. You just got to go and find it. You know, just go. It's there, you know, and maybe come with us.
And if you want to be guided, come with us.
Yeah.